There are a ton of trendy sleep gadgets and products out on the market right now. Today we're looking at a handful to see if they're worth all the hype and if they're worth the sometimes surprisingly expensive price tag. First up, we have the Soundcore Sleep A20 earbuds. These are from their small but popular sleep series lineup from Soundcore. They are entirely designed and focused around use while you're sleeping overnight. This wasn't a category I was very familiar with. It doesn't seem like there are a lot of options on the market right now, but there is a pretty big cult following for some of these sleep buds. The A20 model here uses no active noise cancellation. It's just passive noise cancellation from the seal in your ears. I found this to be pretty effective. There's kind of a two-layer shell with the ear tips that are included with the system. You get a variety of different sizes along with wing tips that help secure it in place. I found this to be really effective. I'm a side sleeper and I'm generally pretty sensitive to this sort of thing. They're extremely small and surprisingly comfortable. In addition to the noise canceling though, they offer quite a few other sleep-focused features here. First and foremost is the white noise options. They come preloaded with a couple of tracks built into the earbuds themselves, so you don't actually have to use it and connect via Bluetooth like traditional earbuds. Through the app as well, you can kind of customize your own sounds. There's a surprisingly large library with a lot of different customization. You have quite a few options to tailor whatever sounds that you might want or enjoy. You can load them directly on the earbuds and use them independently of your phone. They have a built-in alarm function if you want to use these to wake up. They also have an auto shut-off timer if you want to have the white noise playing for just a shorter amount of time while you fall asleep. And they also offer sleep tracking that you can review through the Soundcore app. I found this to be pretty disappointing and honestly didn't test it out very much. It is very rudimentary and a fraction of what you get from most modern tech wearables like my Ultra Human Ring or my Apple Watch Ultra. You'd be much better off going with something like that if you're really in the market for more sleep-focused tracking. I found the battery life to be quite good, especially in sleep mode. They're rated for up to 14 hours of use aside from the case, and then with the case itself you can get up to 80 hours. So that's more than enough for a full night of sleep. And if it wasn't apparent, they also can operate just as regular old Bluetooth earbuds for daytime use. I found these to be serviceable. You know, the sound is pretty good, but definitely not nearly as good as the $180 price tag here, so I wouldn't really bank on that. You know, you're paying all of that extra for the sleep-focused features. I had mentioned the subpar sleep tracking. The touch controls were also a bit of a disappointment. It's pretty limited in what you can do. You can customize double tap or triple tap for each ear. You know, that's a little limiting, but workable and manageable, but the thing that is not manageable is the responsiveness. I found these to only have like a 25% hit rate. It's incredibly frustrating for daytime use headphones, and I found it to be even more annoying trying to use these while I was sleeping. Everything else though was surprisingly good. They're extremely comfortable, which is priority number one, and their sound library is thorough and really customizable, which I love. And I will say $180 is a lot, but compared to some of the competition, it's really not that bad of a deal. The Bose Sleep Buds are a real cult favorite in this space from what I can tell, but they were discontinued a while back. You know, on eBay, they go for like $500 or $600. And if I'm understanding correctly, some of the folks from Bose broke off and made Oslo Sleep Buds. The reviews for those are extremely mid and they're $350, so basically double the price of this. So if you're in the market, these are potentially a good option. It really just depends on what is most important for you. This isn't really something I need or particularly want, so I might have been overly critical. If you want a more simple analog option, I just talked about the Loop Quiet 2 earplugs. They don't offer any of the fancy features that these do, but they do deaden the sound just as regular earplugs do if you want to check into that. But somewhat complicated thoughts on these. I'd love to hear if you've tested any other sleep buds down in the comments below. Next up, we've got the Snooz Pro White Noise Machine. It is a sound machine that's not just a Bluetooth speaker, it is an actual analog sound creating machine. Essentially, this is a really loud fan that doesn't output any air. You can really hear the difference from this compared to an MP3 recording from a speaker. I found it to be extremely pleasant. All of the controls are extremely simple and intuitive, which is really important if you're trying to go to sleep. You have a power button in the center, and then you can lower or raise the volume on either side. And if you flip it upside down, you actually have this little tone knob here to change the overall tone and frequency of the fan noise. It has a pretty big range and volume, and in addition to the physical controls on the device, they also have an optional app that you can use. I found this to be a perfect implementation. You know, so many apps out there that are required to operate things I didn't actually even know for the first few days of using this, which is perfect. It just adds a little extra functionality if you want it to. Controls are simple on there if you want to operate it remotely, but you can also set, scheduled timers if you want it to start up when you go to bed, if you keep a consistent sleep schedule. Build quality and aesthetics here are excellent. I think it looks like a little HomePod. You have the soft fabric mesh material on the outside. This is the Pro model. They do also have a standard model that's $20 less. With the Pro, you get a travel case, which doesn't feel necessary. This thing is pretty large, but you also have the addition of that tone knob, which I really love, and the upgraded materials for the better aesthetic. $120 is definitely a steep price point, but it does exactly what it says it does, and it does it really well. I did actually look at their website. They have a 2-in-1 option that is a regular traditional fan in addition to the secondary noise fan. I'm someone that generally likes to sleep with a regular fan. My Dreo fan has been living in my bedroom all year and I absolutely love it. It doesn't put out a ton of volume though, definitely less than this. Even a really good quality fan isn't necessarily going to be as loud as this tiny little machine. I found myself liking this even more than I thought I would, and I'm probably going to keep it around long term. Really quick, I want to give a huge thank you to Magtame for sponsoring this week's video and introduce you to their brand new Magtame Staycables. I've been a huge fan of Magtame for a few years now. Their traditional cables coil together magnetically, which completely eliminates the need for knowing cable ties while still keeping everything neat and tidy. Really perfect for travel and everyday carry use. Their new Staycables have evolved that idea for use around the home. They actually have a magnetic base, which allow for some really clean and easy cable management with almost no effort where you probably need it most. Inside of the package, you'll find the cable itself and an adhesive magnet pad. You just stick the magnet pad to your nightstand or desk and you're ready to go. No rat's nest of cables or annoying cable clips to deal with. I set my wife up with one on her side of the bed to be able to charge her phone and headphones. She normally can't be bothered with cable management stuff like I do. It was a true test for a non-techie and she's been loving it. I also put a couple behind my office lamp and my little charging station here. Really convenient having them still accessible without all the cable clutter. You could even use these in your car setup if you wanted to. Really convenient for wired CarPlay or Android Auto. They come in either 1 meter or 1.5 meter lengths with USB-A to C or USB-C to C. They're braided cables and support 60 watts of charging and can also do data transfer up to 480 megabits. Quality is great as I'd expect. All of my Magtame cables have held up really well over the years. Be sure to check them out, pick one up for yourself or your cluttered bedside partner. You definitely won't regret it. Links are in the description down below. Huge thanks again to Magtame for sponsoring today's video. Our next item is a bit too big for the desk. It's the Sleeping Duck Indestruct bed frame. This thing is wild. It's probably the ultimate buy it for life bed frame that, as the name suggests, is indestructible. It uses over 110 pounds of steel for the frame and has their C-spine system. This is essentially an additional steel column that runs under each sleeper. It has a 5,000 pound weight limit and a no squeak guarantee. This thing is as sturdy as it gets. I really had pretty high expectations for this. Reviews were all really good. I was pretty hyped up about it and it definitely lived up to that hype. This thing is beefy and strong and just feels immovable. I feel like over-engineered doesn't even begin to cover it. It has a lifetime warranty and I have a hard time imagining how or why you'd even need to use it. Aside from any potential sleep benefits of having a really solid, sturdy foundation under your mattress, it's actually really important for the health of the mattress itself. I actually sold beds for a number of years when I was younger, so I'm very well informed on all of this. You don't want any kind of give under your bed or it'll literally ruin your mattress. I'm a big advocate of investing in a really good quality mattress, but the second you have any sort of give or sag from a bed frame or a box spring foundation or anything like that, you're throwing away potentially thousands of dollars ruining your mattress way prematurely from just normal wear and tear. Aside from the beefy steel frame, you actually have really thick birch plywood support panels that go on top of it underneath your mattress. The little circles that you see are actually there to help promote airflow. If you have a completely solid surface, you can be a little bit more prone to mold or mildew or moisture. This is surprisingly common in my years of checking on warranties for different mattresses, so really good to see that they've thought of that. And they refer to the frame legs as legs of steel. There are 6 in total, which is really great to see, but they are just absurdly beefy. The entire leg threads into the frame itself, not some little, wimpy bolt that pops out of the top. When I got it, there were 5 boxes in total. It actually arrived on a pallet, which was pretty wild. Assembly, though, for being so heavy and big, was a lot simpler and easier than I was anticipating. It was all very straightforward and simple, which I really love for the potential repairability down the road. They have a few different wood options and a few different upholstery options. I went with the walnut wood. The price for mine comes out to $16.99. They did send this out to me to review and check out, so I didn't actually pay for it myself, just so everyone knows. Everything else in this video I did pay for, though. It is a very steep price point and potentially the only con here, so I think it just boils down to whether or not you see that value in something that will literally outlast you and be able to cover any mattresses that you have for the rest of your life. I'm a huge fan of that buy it for life mentality, the buy once, cry once sort of thing. So your mileage may vary. It just really depends on the budget and whether you see the value in a literally indestructible bed frame. Everything that they claimed was true. I'm really happy with the quality. I do kind of wish I had the headboard version now that I have it set up, but other than that, no complaints aside from, a pretty steep price point for all of this good quality. Next up, we have the Hatch Restore 3. This is a sunrise wake-up alarm. Apparently, this has been making the rounds on TikTok ads and stuff like that. I'm not really on TikTok very often, but I was looking around at sunrise alarms for this video, and this seemed to be my favorite after checking all of the different options out online. If you're not familiar with sunrise alarms, they have a built-in light, and the light gradually increases to wake you up, along with sometimes potentially, music or noise options as well. This is a really excellent way to wake up if you need an alarm. I actually have not used an alarm to wake up for like 15 years, even before I quit and started doing this full time and working at home. I've just been an early riser for a long time, but my wife has a lot of trouble getting out of bed. So I kind of checked out these options with her in mind. And this one here is simultaneously great and infuriating at the same time. At its core function being a sunrise alarm to sit on your nightstand and wake you up, it is really good at all of that. The light that comes out of it is strong and looks nice. The overall aesthetics here are excellent. That was what drew me to this compared to some of the other big players, like the popular one from Philips as an alternative. But where this thing really falls short and annoyed me was the app experience. First and foremost, they require the use of the app to get it set up and working. I didn't like that right off the bat. Secondly, they required you to make an account to be able to set this up and actually use it. Third, they forced you into a trial for a paid membership for the extra features that you can potentially have with this thing. So not only did you need to use the app, you needed to create an account and you needed to set up the free trial to be able to continue along with the setup process. I find that alone to be a bit of a deal breaker, if I'm being honest. Aside from that initial setup, I went and finished through the process and canceled my trial membership immediately after. Always good to do that sort of thing if you don't. And continued on. They seem pretty well set on creating an entire bedtime routine for you from before you go to bed to while you're asleep to when you wake up. In theory, this is really good. I think, sleep hygiene, a big part of that is having a consistent and nice bedtime routine, but a lot of it just feels unnecessary, like they're trying to keep you in their ecosystem without, any real reason for it. The wind down features are essentially podcasts or little meditations and specific lighting setups to help you calm down before bed. All kind of nice, but I'd rather just listen to podcasts or have a meditation app separately. The white noise options for sleep was actually pretty decent. I got spoiled with my analog noise machine that we talked about earlier in the video, so it didn't feel as good as that, but it was definitely, serviceable. And then the morning wake up alarm stuff was actually really good. Like I said, at its core, being a wake up up alarm clock, I think it is really great at that. And I had mentioned before they have a paid membership option through the app. And I looked in to see what was available with the free version if you didn't want to do that. They definitely do a lot of guilting and trying to get you to use the paid service, but they do have a fair bit of options out there for the white noise, for the wake up alarm options, all of that in free, so you don't necessarily need to have the paid service to still be happy with this. The physical controls on the outside are pretty nice. You have one giant button to be able to turn off the alarm. You know, that's kind of the only real thing I was looking for here, was a simple way to turn it off. Comes out to $170, which is definitely steep, but honestly pretty comparable to most of the other options I was looking at that were similarly well reviewed. Like I mentioned really quickly earlier, there's one from Philips that seems to be a similarly great option, but it's $150 and it's a lot uglier. I'm almost hesitant to go with something uglier and not have to deal with all the app mess here. But like I said at the start, you know, if you want to just use this as an alarm clock and kind of do your best to avoid all of the other junk they're trying to push in your face, it is actually pretty good at that. Next up, we have the Manta Slim Sleep Mask. This is a slimmer version of the traditional Manta that's designed for side sleepers. I've been looking into sleep masks for a little while now because, you know, peak summer here in Oregon, you know, I'm getting bursting daylight at like 5:30 a.m. right in my eyes. I'm in the process of getting some blackout shades for my bedroom, but I don't currently have them, and it is significantly disrupting my sleep. I've used a few kind of traditional cheap sleep masks in the past, and we're never super happy with them, so I wanted to look at what some of the better quality options were. You know, the Manta seemed like a really good in-between. It was $35. There are some crazy high-end models that get into like $100 to $200 range, but this seemed like a step up from the super cheap ones that you'd think of, and you know, it definitely is, but it wasn't quite as good as I wanted it to be. Some of the things I really liked here, it has detachable eye cups, which is really nice to be able to custom tailor fit it to your face. Manta also offers some like cooling and heating therapeutic cups as an alternative, or an extra if you wanted to purchase those too. Overall comfort was pretty good. I still found this to be a little thick for side sleeping, and when I had it mushed on my face, it kind of caused a bit of a shift that negated that blackout effect. It wasn't significant, but definitely worth mentioning. I could stop that from happening by tightening the band, but then it would be so tight, it would be uncomfortable in a different way. I found that loosening it up and keeping it a bit looser was the best option here. I also really like that you do have some space for your eyes in the eye cups themselves. You know, if you want to open your eyes or adjust, it just feels a little more comfortable not having something pressing on your actual eyeball. The materials feel pretty good. Everything is pretty soft and comfortable to the touch. I really hate the aesthetics here, mainly just for this logo in the center. I know it's their Manta logo, but it just really makes it feel and look a lot cheaper in my opinion. I'm a bit of a snob for that sort of thing though. But after a couple weeks of using this, I don't think I'm going to continue on with it. I think I'm going to check out a few other alternatives. If I slept on my back, I would have zero complaints, but it's just that side sleeping, it was a little less comfortable than I wanted it to be. I heard that the Manta Pro is actually a huge step up for side sleeping comfort compared to this one, but it is like $90, I think, in comparison to the $35. I would also be really curious. I almost got it for this video, but just couldn't justify it. There's the Aura sleep mask, which is like a smart sleep mask with a ton of crazy features, but it's over $200, I think. I'd love to hear if any of you have sleep mask recommendations specifically for side sleepers. I'm going to keep checking around for myself long term. That's the end of the products that we're going to be talking today. I did have a few other points and things I wanted to mention really quickly on the end for everyone. Like I said, I sold mattresses for a long time. I've been a real big sleep nerd for even longer than that. I think the core, if you're looking to improve your sleep, is to focus on that overall sleep hygiene and consistency. Consistency is key. And you want to be aiming to go to bed and wake up at the same time, have a dedicated nighttime routine that's going to calm you down. You know, I tend to take a shower at night now. I have for the past few years. I found that really helps. And once I'm out of the shower, the phone goes away until the morning. So I have this huge chunk of time without my phone, without anything. I find it very calming and nice and relaxing, and it really helps me fall asleep a lot quicker. Having that general consistency is really important. It's also generally free unless you have to work, which is a whole other separate topic. The other thing I want to talk about though is the wearables, and the sleep tracking tech has gotten so awesome awesome. I've been wearing my Apple Watch Ultra and my Ultra Human Ring to bed all year now, and I just love having all of that extra data. I would definitely recommend one of the rings over the watch. It's just a little less cumbersome and it's a little more comfortable for sleep. The Ultra Human Ring has been good. I did find a recent video from the Quantified Scientist that reviewed it, and it didn't quite stack up accuracy-wise to the Oura Ring. So that's something I might be checking out down the road. I'll link to that channel too. If you're into sleep tech, he is the best of the best. And if it wasn't obvious already, everything we talked about here would be ridiculous to have all at once. There are a ton of redundancies and things that cancel out each other. You can't have a sunrise alarm without a sleep mask and vice versa. But it was really fun doing this. It's kind of weird being a little bit more critical than my normal videos. I bought stuff not knowing how it would be, and I really stuck to it. Normally, if there's something that I check out for a video and I don't like it, I just chuck it aside and find something else that I do like. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this format too, in comparison to the usual videos around here. What did you think? Did you like it? Do you want to see more sleep stuff? Do you want to see more critical reviews? Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.